Beat March Boxing was good boxing heads and fight fans around the world. Now, Triple G really and truly has had controversial fights in, some will say, in three of his last four fights. I would say in two, two of his last four fights. All right. As I reported yesterday, and I made a video, Canelo Alvarez says he'll fight Triple G only if he gets himself a world title. And that's not too much to ask for from Triple G. You know what I mean? Triple G was a man who held three titles for a long stretch, a long period of time. He was one of the longest belt holders in the last few years. And he got his first loss when he lost to Canelo Alvarez, right? Now, Canelo Alvarez, like I said, he wants to man Triple G if he wants a shot at a trilogy to go ahead and get himself a belt. And why not? Like I said before in my previous video, he's getting paid a whole lot of money by the zone. So he might as well also challenge himself, you know what I mean? 6 fight deal for 3 years. He can't be fighting no cab drivers for the rest of that period of his on his contract, you know what I mean? Um This is what Golovkin said. I'm sorry, Canelo. Quote, the objective this year is to win all the titles. My goal this year is to have all the belts. If Golovkin has a belt before the end of the year, then yes, we'll gladly fight him. If he doesn't, see see where it falls later. If he doesn't, see where it falls later, how it plays out. Right now my objective is May 4th. That's where my focus is. If a third fight happens, it'll be better than the first two. Right now, my concentration and focus is on May 4th. Now, now more than ever, everybody wants to fight me, to beat me. Obviously, that's the biggest thing for them. They want to come and beat me. We're always exposed to that. In boxing, anything can happen. That's why today I train harder than ever so that it doesn't happen and we continue with victories and winning. End quote. So those are the words from Canelo, you know what I mean? And these are the other words, hence the title of his video. I'm gonna read you some quotes. Quote, and this is when he's talking about he feels Danny Jacobs won the fight. He says, quote, I mean the fight was close. Could have been to anyone. For me, Jacobs won the fight. He's an opponent that is very complete. He knows how to obviously change guards from southpaw to orthodox. He knows how to move in the ring. Very difficult. We know the risk of this fight. It is a high risk fight. A fighter of my experience, of my level, has to adapt and know how to adapt to all levels. That's what we're preparing for. We're working very hard to prepare and come out to victory. I believe Jacobs has a unique style because he's a complete fighter. He can box, punch, he's tall and agile. No matter what's in front of me, I can adapt and overcome. End quote. And he had some more quotes. Quote, we have a tough, difficult fight ahead of us. As a team, we have a goal. The objective of this year is to win all the belts. If Golovkin has a belt, then yes, why not? We've given the fans two beautiful, great fights. Why not a third? End quote. So not only I, but a lot of people felt that Danny Jacobs won that fight. You know what I mean? And really and truly, it just actually, it actually it's a telling scenario on the man Triple G's career. You know what I mean? When he finally had his step up fights, Danny Jacobs being the first step up fight of his career, being the best fighter he'd ever fought. You know what I mean? Before that, the most accomplished fighter he had fought, not necessarily the best. The most accomplished fighter he had beat was Daniel Gill. You know what I mean? A two-time middleweight champ. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't really saying much. You know what I mean? So when he finally stepped up and fought Danny Jacobs, you know, I thought he lost the fight. Sure, he did drop Danny Jacobs. I had the fight 7 rounds to 5. You know what I mean? Then he fights Canelo, and the first fight I had it a draw. You know what I mean? Some people felt Golovkin won. I had it a draw, but like I said before, if I saw anybody, if I had to lean to anybody winning that fight, I would have probably edged it 7-5. to the man Golovkin. But the third fight, I'm sorry, the second fight, the rematch, I had that fight 7-5, maybe 8-4. You know what I mean? I thought that fight was a clear cut victory for the man Canelo. And I was rooting for Triple G in both fights. So I'm not being biased. I'm not them type of people. You know what I mean? I'm not going to let my eyes deceive me. I'm not going to let my eyes deceive me and say something different coming out of my mouth. If I thought the guy lost, even if it's a guy I was rooting for, then so be it. Even if it's a guy, let's say I did a prediction video and the first fight I predicted Golovkin to win. The second fight I predicted Canelo to win. You know what I mean? But Canelo also feels that Danny Jacobs won the fight. You know what I mean? So at least it's not just the fans out here who are saying that Danny Jacobs won the fight. Even boxers are saying so. You know what I mean? Um, Golovkin, really and truly, he's not getting no younger. He's 37 years old. Me personally, I think he's looking for the cash out fight with Canelo because he even said it. Even if Danny Jacobs beats Canelo, he's not fighting Danny Jacobs. He wants a third fight with the man Canelo. I think that's a bad mental makeup. You know what I'm saying? It's just showing that basically it's a telltale sign that he all he wants is a big payday. You know what I mean? And Triple G, he has been disappointing. You know what I mean? As far as his performances in the big step up fights. And also the caliber of fighters he's trying to fight. Steve Rose and Hassan Ndam and Brandon Cooks and there's some other guy from Germany that they had first mentioned when Triple G first came on the zone. You know what I mean? You can't go back to revert to fighting guys like um, Adama and um, the Martin Murrays of the world and Jose, Marco Antonio Rubio's and Dominique Wade's and Willie Monroe. That's what he wants to take us. He wants to take us back to 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, when he was fighting a whole bunch of nobodies and fighting guys like Kell Brook and bringing guys up like Vargas Matarosa. You can't go back to that, you know what I mean? You can't be now trying to protect your one loss. You might get another if you step up to the plate, but this is boxing. We want, as the fans, we want to see the best fight the best. You know what I mean? It's not fun going into a fight where you know so and so is going to demolish so and so. What's the point? You know what I mean? That's kind of how I feel about this Anthony Crowley Lomachenko fight. That's why I haven't done any videos about it really because it's not a compelling fight to me. It doesn't capture my imagination. You know what I'm saying? I love the fights where up to like Clarissa Shields and Christina Hammer. Those are the type of fights that I enjoy, you know, thinking about a breakdown and prediction. What are the best strategies in doing a film study? You know what I mean? And Triple G wants to take us back to those days, and I'm not feeling it. And hopefully the fans will show displeasure and will be adamant that he fight better opposition. Now we already know his fanboy fanatics. They see that's the thing about fanboy fanatics. They don't want their favorite fighter to be tested. You know what I'm saying? They don't want their favorite fighter to be in a position where they could possibly lose a fight. They'd rather see him fight tomato cans and say he beat him and just keep him moving. He still got an O on his record. That's why the Triple G fans they can't fathom or come to the can't wrap their mind around the fact that Triple G lost to Canelo. You know what I'm saying? They thought this guy would go undefeated. These fanatics of these other fighters, they really want their fighters to follow the career path of Floyd Mayweather. No matter how much they say they hate the guy and despise him, they really want their favorite fighters to follow the same career path as Floyd Mayweather, whether it's for Lomachenko, Triple G, or even Canelo, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, look at their records. All three of those guys I mentioned, they do have a loss on their record, unlike Floyd, you know what I mean? And there's no coming back from that, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, as a fan, you should want your fighter to fight the best, you know what I mean? And if he's really the truth, he shall win the fights. And if he doesn't, then he wasn't what you hyped him up to be, you know what I mean? And it's just that's what it comes down to. clear cut and dry. You know what I mean? They thought the guy Kovalev was invincible till he started taking losses. At a point in time, he had lost, I don't know, uh, three of his last five fights, going back to the two Andre Ward losses and the loss to Alidia Alvarez. Nobody's invincible. Neither is Danny Jacobs. He has a loss, but he's come back quite well from that loss. A man who beat cancer, you know what I mean? He's come back to become a world champion. Finally became a world champion. Although I did think he struggled in that fight versus Deverchenko. I thought he struggled versus Selecki. You know what I mean? So any of these guys are vulnerable. They can be beat. But at the end of the day, we want to see the best fight the best. And Danny Jacobs versus Canelo is a very good fight. Set shot, what's happening? Set shot, he's in the chat, says, what's good, man? What's happening with you, dogs? So I don't think the man Canelo has any malice towards Triple G to just say that he thought he lost the fight. I thought he lost the fight that night, man. When I watched the fight, I was shocked that the man was happening. Unrivaled. McGregor was good with you, man. McGregor up in the chat. When I watched that Triple G versus Jacobs fight, man, I thought he clearly won that fight. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, the best should be fighting the best, and Triple G has shown that he's not willing to do that unless there's a massive paycheck on the table, and he can only get that fighting Canelo. And that sets a bad precedence on the mental makeup and mentality of some of these boxers. You know what I mean? You know, what's his name? Abel Sanchez. He's the ringleader of that type of mentality. He's trying to protect Gennady Golovkin as much as he can, and he lost to a Mexican fighter. You know what I mean? Abel Sanchez is of Mexican descent, and Abel Sanchez he himself said that Canelo lost the second fight. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, Triple G lost the second fight. So we gotta put things in perspective, and we got to let these fighters fight the best. And if you're a fan of these particular fighters, like a Triple G or Lomachenko or so and so, don't be scared for them to get into tough fights. You know what I mean? Don't be scared of them to get into 50-50 fights or a fight where they might be the underdog. Mikey Garcia, foolish of him, in my opinion. He should have never done it. He should have kept his at least if you're going to lose to the man Lomachenko. But maybe he himself couldn't have. He doesn't want that on his resume. You know what I mean? He just like how Amir Khan wouldn't want to fight a guy like Kell Brook. He'd rather go up and fight Canelo and get put to sleep or fight anybody else, even a Terrence Crawford, before he gets in there with Kell Brook. You know what I mean? Some guys would rather lose to other guys than rather lose to certain other guys. You know what I mean? McGregor's in the chat. He says, I gave Jacobs GGG a draw. I'm not mad at that. I ain't mad at that at all. It was a close fight. You know what I mean? I had edged it 114. What was it? Um, I had it 7-5, but with the knockdown, you know what I'm saying? I had Jacobs winning by 1 point. McGregor says it could have gone either way. No issue with Canelo thinking he won. No doubt about it. Setshot says, I thought the knockdown was a difference in Jacob GGG versus Jacobs. Now that possibly could be the case. Like I said, it was a close fight. I thought Danny Jacobs did enough to win, but at the end of the day, I already know boxing. You gotta snatch that from the champion's hands. You know what I mean? I don't think Tony Harrison snatched that WBC title from Jamel Charlo. Fight could have gone either way. I personally had edged it on my scorecard. I had it 7-5 for Jamel Charlo. I was rooting for Tony Harrison. You know what I mean? But I thought that the man Charlo won the fight. You know what I'm saying? Am I mad at the decision? Not so much. But I heard they gonna do a rematch in June. You know, so Danny Jacobs versus Canelo. I'm looking forward to that fight. I'm not looking forward to whoever Triple G is fighting unless it's Demetrius Andrade. And I just read some articles today. Looks like Selecki will be ready for Andrade sometime in June. I'd read an article the day before that, on yesterday or the day before that, saying he's going to be ruled out, and Andrade has no opponent for that June date in Providence, Rhode Island, in his hometown. You know what I mean? Look, man, Bubba Andrade's from he is from Providence, Rhode Island. But I'm gonna keep it tall with y'all. The zone, you see, the zone is now gonna have a fight over there in Providence, Rhode Island, and I ain't gonna lie, Providence, Rhode Island is not a hotbed for boxing. It might have used to been when guys like Vinny Paz was, Vinny Paz was also a very outspoken person. You know what I mean? He was like a people's champ. You know what I mean? I can't quite say the same for Demetrius Andrade. How will they sell out that venue wherever they going? I'm not too sure. You know what I mean? This is kind of like the card DAZN put out over there in Kansas City with Big Baby Jarrell Miller, a guy from Brooklyn, New York, fighting in the middle of America in Kansas, versus Bogdan Dinu. That fight, man, arena was empty, man. That shit was depressing seeing that. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying that Demetrius Andrade shouldn't demand or have a hometown fight in Providence, Rhode Island. Last guy I remember from Providence, Rhode Island was Peter Manfredo. You know what I mean? 168 guy who fought the likes of guys like Sakio Bika and Calzaghe. You know what I mean? And a guy used to be under contender. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that they shouldn't have no fights for him in Providence, Rhode Island. But I think they need to build his brand up more. You know what I mean? He needs to fight more high profile fighters. You know what I'm saying? His title reign to me has been whack. Even when he won the world title, you know what I'm saying? And Demetrius Andrade is a very skilled fighter. But his resume, it doesn't have the names, and I'm pretty sure that's because he's a high risk, low reward type of guy. That's why, in my opinion, Canelo is urging the man Triple G to go fight him because if Canelo has any hopes or wants to become undisputed, if he does beat Danny Jacobs, he's gonna have to fight Demetrius Andrade, which is a tricky style, southpaw. You know what I mean? Canoli says he has no problem with fighting southpaws, and well, I don't know about that. I watched that Landy Lara fight, and he had all sorts of trouble. You know what I mean? McGregor says I gave Harrison versus Jamel a draw as well. Yeah, I wouldn't be mad at a draw. You know what I mean? It was that type of fight. You know what I'm saying? A very controversial fight. Could have gone either way. The champ lost his belt. I've seen other champions. I seen Kaya Fight get beat by some guy, and he still managed to keep his title. You know what I mean? So I guess it's depending on the judge's discretion and how they feel. You know what I mean? If they like you enough. Triple G, he kept his belt that night. Canoli beat him in the second fight. You know what I mean? A lot of people feel that Canoli won. Triple G won that fight. I don't know how. I can't see how. I don't know how. I thought I had Canelo winning that fight. Setshot says, B, you think Coke has a chance this weekend? Who's Coke fighting again? Setshot? I should know this. He's fighting who again? Remind me who Jack Coke is fighting. I'm sure when you mention it, um, I'm going to remember immediately. Who's Coke fighting? I'm not too sure who Jack Coke is fighting, Setshot. Oh, Devrichenko. That's exactly right. That's who he's fighting. And I think this is an IBF eliminator for the winner of Danny Jacobs versus Canelo. Koke, I think, will lose that fight. I got Devrichenko winning that fight. You know what I mean? Devrichenko's a very good fighter. Devrichenko barely lost to Danny Jacobs on my card. I had it 7-5, and Danny Jacobs ain't look good in that fight. You know what I mean? Um, McGregor Unrivaled Boxing Talking News asks, what do you think of Truex versus Quillen? That's the second best fight to me this weekend. I'm looking forward to Clarissa Shields fight and that PBC on FS1 card with Quillen and Truax. Truax is fighting in his hometown. He's getting a hometown fight, main event in the Armory in Minneapolis. You know what I mean? Peter Quillen is a guy. Both guys actually are former guys who used to be at 160. Quillen was a champion at 160. I think Quillen is definitely the harder hitter. You know what I mean? But Peter Quillen to me is not that refined from his boxing skill set. His boxing skill set is not as refined. And I'm sorry, Caleb Truex is also a former world champion too at 168, beat James DeGale. And then in the rematch, I had him losing that fight by like 1 point. You know what I mean? It was a very close fight. You know what I'm saying? The rematch with James DeGale. Uh, if I had to lean on to anybody winning this fight, I wouldn't be surprised if anybody won, but I probably would. I'd probably lean towards Peter Quillen, only off the strength that Peter Quillen is a harder hitter. You know what I mean? But if Caleb Truex, and I've seen Caleb Truex get stopped. You know, I've seen him lose to guys like Danny Jacobs and Anthony the Dog Durrell. You know what I mean? The dog actually beat him easily, beat him easier than anybody I've seen beat Caleb Truex. You know, so if Caleb Truex could be a slippery fighter in there and frustrate the man, Danny Jacobs, and Peter Quillen can go down too. But you know, I seen that fight with Peter Quillen and Andy Lee. Very good fight. You know what I mean? Peter Quillen hit that man, Andy Lee, with the kitchen sink. I don't know how the fuck Andy Lee got up, but Andy Lee also got up and put him on the deck. But that's the type of fighter Andy Lee was. He could crack. You know what I mean? Um, if Caleb Truex could be a slippery fighter and be difficult to hit, he might could win a points decision. You know what I'm saying? I think a guy like Peter Quillen could be outboxed, and also, you know, um, Caleb Truex is gonna have to set traps. You know what I mean? To try to tap that jaw, kind of like how Danny Jacobs did, and you know, go in for the kill. But you know, I'm actually leaning towards Peter Quillen. I think he's been a more world class elite fighter longer for a longer stretch than the man Caleb Truex. Like I said, both guys coming up from 160. It's a pretty even fight, you know what I mean? I'll probably give it in favor of Peter Quillen 55-45. Setshot says, me too. Colque did okay versus Andrade. He got some skills. Yeah, he does. Actually, they did fight in the amateurs too, you know. These are guys, Andrade and Colque, who are familiar with each other from the amateurs. Setshot says more than a few interesting fights this weekend. Yeah, it's going to be a freaking brain overload this weekend. From Friday, Anthony Crolla versus Lomachenko. Then Saturday, there's going to be three cards on three different networks: The Zone, FS1, and Showtime. You know what I mean? I'm going to have like three devices up: the TV, the tablet, phone. It's going to be crazy, man. Our rival says, "Do you think Crolla can go all 12?" Yeah, yeah. Crolla's a tough dude. I seen Derry Matthews stop him back in the day. That was on domestic British level. But after that, he's a tough dude, man. The body shot game is vicious. He's a tough SOB, and I think he's going to go 12. You know what I mean? Will I be shocked if Loma stops him? Probably not. You know, I mean, the guy might quit. You never know. But I don't see Crawler quitting. He's going to go out on his shield. You know what I mean? And he might, if he does get stopped, it might be from a barrage of punches. You know what I'm saying? But I think that the man Anthony Crolla is formidable enough to go the distance. You know what I mean? Shizbiz, what's happening, man? How you feeling? Shizbiz in the chat. Unrivaled Boxing Talk and News says Loma to win on points is 7-2, 3.5 to 1. I'm gonna have to look at them odds too. You know what I mean? I'm gonna have to look at them odds. I also gotta look at the Clarissa Shields and Christina Hammer odds. I know Clarissa's the favorite to win, but I think that's a 50-50 fight. But I am leaning towards Clarissa Shields to win that fight. You know what I mean? She's younger, um, more aggressive. Christina Hammer is definitely the taller, longer reach, and the stronger fighter. You know what I mean? Her workouts are intense. You know what I mean? Hammer's 5-2. Yeah, I might have to look into them odds. McGregor says Hammer's 5-2 on the odds. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be an interesting weekend, man. Gonna be up on it. I'm gonna watch all the fights. You know what I mean? I don't know who's fighting on the zones card besides the main event, which is Jaime Munguia versus Dennis Hogan. Um, I'll watch the fights, but I'll be more paying attention to the Caleb Truex fight. Caleb Truex and them, they should have just put it on a Sunday, to be honest. Put it on a Sunday, you know what I mean? Nobody trying to watch three boxing events. I only have two eyes, man. I can't be watching three things at the same time, but we shall see. So yeah, I'm about to seal the deal on this video. Let me know in the comment section what you think about Canelo saying that he thought that Danny Jacobs beat Triple G. You know what I mean? Let me know. Setshot says great odds on an undefeated champion Hammer. I know. I know. That's why I'm looking into that. I might put some money down on Christina Hammer. You know what I mean? But big ups to Setshot, Unrivaled Boxing, McGregor, Shiz Biz. Big ups to everybody who came through in the chat. And I'm going to catch you guys on the next video. All right? Peace.